In this video, we're going to be taking a first look at the all-new Anbernic RG557. And to tell you the truth, I've actually been excited about this. Last year, they released a ton of different handhelds, and it's been a little bit since they released a new one, but when it comes down to it, on paper, this is packing some serious power. Plus, we've got a beautiful 5.5-inch AMOLED display. It's got dual stereo speakers, active cooling built in here for that new CPU, and we'll talk more about that in a bit. I've been testing this out for the last 24 hours, so this is not going to be a full review. Basically, with this video, I'm going to give you my first thoughts, and I want to show you what this thing can do, because in all actuality, it's pretty impressive for one of these devices, given the new CPU they opted to use here. Taking a look at the overall design here, not too different from the RG556, and that design did work really well. Again, we've got a 5.5-inch AMOLED display, and I think this one looks really good. Resolution of 1080p, aspect ratio obviously of 16:9. D-pad does feel really nice, and we'll test that by the end of the video. Around back, not a lot going on, but we do have our intake vents for that active cooler. On the bottom of the unit, we've got the downward firing stereo speakers, micro SD card slot, USB Type-C, and a 3.5mm audio jack. And of course, up top, we've got our power button, volume rocker, there's an LED power indicator, and our exhaust vent for that built-in cooling fan. So first things first here, I want to get the specs out of the way because when it comes down to it, this is Anbernic's most powerful handheld they've released so far. The CPU here is the MediaTek Dimensity 8300. It's an 8-core ARM SoC. We've got one A715 core up to 3.35 GHz, three A715 cores up to 3.2 GHz, and four A510 cores up to 2.2. Of course, there were some people that were a bit disappointed they weren't using a Snapdragon chip here, but this Dimensity 8300 does offer a significant performance upgrade from everything they've offered in the past. Plus, they added 12 gigs of RAM here. We also have 256 gigabytes of UFS 4.0 storage built in, and you can add a micro SD card up to 2 terabytes with this unit. It's got Wi-Fi 6E, Bluetooth 5.3, a 5.48-inch AMOLED display at 1920 by 1080. It's got a 5500 mAh battery with 27-watt fast charging, and they're claiming up to 8 hours of runtime out of this. And I could see that with some lower-end gaming, but if you want to max this thing out all the way, all the time, you're not going to get 8 hours of runtime out of it. And of course, when it comes to the operating system, this is running Android. In fact, we've got Android 14 here. Right out of the box, we've got access to Google Play. Not a problem to get in here, download all of your favorite games, applications, and emulators. And I'll tell you right now, if you want to play Android games on this, you're going to be able to play everything maxed out on it. Not a problem for the chipset we have here. And you can see that we've got a regular Android interface here, but we also have their own launcher built in, which is really nice for emulation. This is super easy to set up. Basically, I just put a bunch of games on a micro SD card, told it exactly where it needed to look for them, and it kind of populated everything for me. The Dimensity 8300 does have enough power to even play WiiU, but I'll tell you, it won't play every game. By the end of the video, we'll talk about it. But if you're looking for a GameCube and PS2 emulation machine, this thing definitely has you covered. If you don't want to use that front end or the stock Android interface, that's totally fine because we've got Android here and there's a ton of different front ends that we could install. I've got console launcher installed here. I really do like the look of it. Just super clean. You can set this up in several different ways. And I'm using the new console launcher 2.0 from GitHub, which does support emulation now. But you've got a ton of different choices when it comes to this handheld. I mean, you can customize this thing to the hilt. And when it comes to the overall look and feel, I mean, it's actually really comfortable. Kind of fits right in the palm there. We've got the little grips on the bottom. It does kind of sit in the hand really nicely. We can reach all of the buttons quite easily. And the triggers are Hall-based, but the analog sticks aren't. They're actually using capacitive sticks, and I've been seeing this quite a bit, mainly due to magnetic interference messing up these Hall joysticks that we've been seeing all the time. Usually, when I see downward firing speakers, I get a bit upset. It would be nice to have front facing, but with this, your palms do not block those speakers whatsoever. It's actually pretty nice. Kind of directs the sound right to you from your palm. And I'll tell you, I do love the feel of this D-pad. I think Anbernic has done a really good job with most of their D-pads. I'd say 98% of their D-pads on their handhelds. This feels really nice. When it comes to handheld specific software, we do have a few things that we can mess around with. Performance mode, we can go to high performance mode, and basically this is going to change the governor. We've also got fan adjustment, and I'll tell you, when this thing is kind of full blast, you can definitely hear it. But there is a custom mode that we can get in and kind of tune it if we want to. We also have an on-screen key mapper. Comes in really handy for games on Android that don't natively support controllers. And of course, since we've got some RGB, we've got a little bit of control here. There are a few presets. Personally, I kind of like the marquee, a little bit of a rainbow effect, but you can go through, adjust the brightness and everything like that with them. Kind of make it your own. And to get in just a bit deeper with all of the settings that we already took a look at, we can go to the main Android settings, and we've got another section in here specifically dedicated to the handheld. We can fully adjust the dead zones and sensitivity of the triggers and the analog sticks here directly from within this section. So there's a lot of customization that we can do here to kind of get this to feel like your handheld. And I'll tell you, these capacitive joysticks feel nice. They actually work really well. A lot of people love the Hall sticks, but we've been seeing these quite a bit in newer handhelds. Just kind of give you an idea, check that D-pad out. I mean, it is dead on. The roll on it feels really nice. I think it's the perfect height. I think they did a great job with it. This also supports video over USB Type-C, but through my testing so far, I haven't found any kind of resolution control with it. Basically, it's going to mirror the screen over, and I believe it's just 1080/60, which is definitely better than nothing, and it looks good on a larger display. And full brightness control for the RGB here. Few presets, but personally I like that marquee preset. I just think it looks really nice. Okay, so now I want to get into a little performance testing, and I'm going to be facing this off against the Snapdragon 865. We've got a couple of handhelds that recently hit the market that a lot of people love with that chip. And to tell you the truth, I was pretty surprised at how well the Dimensity did over the Snapdragon 865. When it comes to Geekbench 6, up at the top, we've got that 8300, single core 1374, multi 4276. I mean, all of these scores are way off from newer Android phones hitting the market, but when it comes to these handhelds, these are some decent scores. Next up, we've got 3D Mark Wildlife Extreme. So this is testing out the GPU, and on that Snapdragon 865, we got a total score of 1334, and it was in performance mode with the device I was testing. With the Dimensity 8300, 3029. Now, I will admit that, when it comes to Snapdragon GPUs, a lot of developers do kind of optimize for Snapdragon. So in certain use case scenarios, even though that Snapdragon is scoring lower in these synthetics, it could outperform the GPU we have here. But the final benchmark I ran here was in 2.2, and on that Snapdragon 865, we got a 807,000. Over on the MediaTek Dimensity 8300, 1,386,000. Now, I want to test out a couple native Android games, then we'll move into some emulation. And the first thing we have here is just really easy to run. It runs on most devices. We've got Minecraft, but I wanted to talk about the built-in controls. They feel really nice with Android games, and they're going to work with Android games that natively support controllers. And when it comes to performance, I mean, there's not much on the market that you can't max out on the Dimensity 8300. PUBG, Call of Duty Warzone, Call of Duty, you want to do some grid racing, it's going to work great on this device. I didn't notice any kind of stuttering. Unfortunately, we don't have a native built-in FPS counter, but for the most part, I'd say everything at high settings will run at 60 FPS, including something like Genshin Impact. And like I mentioned, we've got that built-in key mapper, which is going to work with this game. And there's some pre-made profiles here, specifically for this game, and a lot of other ones on the market that don't use controllers. Unfortunately, the developers have never added controller support for Android, but luckily we've got this. Now, it's not without its issues. When I switch a character, if I've still got one of the sticks held or a button held, I got to let off of it real quick to kind of reactivate it. But other than that, I mean, it's been working pretty decently the way it is. I could play this game no problem at all. And real quick, I'll show you. I'll switch a character while I've got it held. Yeah, you just got to kind of let off. It just kind of doesn't re-register once your character gets back on screen. But for the most part, I mean, it does work out really well with games that need something like this. And by the way, I've got this game at the highest settings, 60 FPS. And again, no on-screen FPS counter, but it's really smooth. I know we're running well over 30 FPS, if not at a constant 60 with it. But now it's time to get into some emulation because I think that's what this device is all about. With that Dimensity 8300, there are thousands and thousands of games that we're going to be able to run with this. And with controls like the D-pad we have here, you're going to have a really good time. I love the feel here. It's got the perfect height and it works great. I can guarantee you that whoever's working on the D-pads for Anbernic does love fighting games because they work out really well. There have been a few misses from them in the past, but for the most part, their handheld D-pads have been spot on. Next thing I wanted to test here was just some PSP using PPSSPP, Chains of Olympus, and I want to show you right now, we'll go into the settings. It's very overkill for the screen we have here, but we're at 4K with this. 8x resolution PSP emulation, and it's running it at 60 FPS. So, I mean, you don't need 4K here, but I wanted to see how far we could push it, and yeah, it will do it. So in the future, if we do get some kind of display toggle for the USB Type-C to HDMI going up to 4K, just note that, yeah, you could definitely play these on a larger screen at 4K. Just setting this down stationary to make it a bit easier on me. I've got an Xbox controller connected over Bluetooth, PS2 using Nether SX2, Tekken 5, 3x resolution, and I'm using the OpenGL backend. I didn't even swap over to Vulkan. 3x is plenty. I didn't even try to go over because we've got a 1080p display. I tested Sly Cooper, Gran Turismo 4, Ratchet and Clank going commando, all at 3x, running perfectly fine. Even something like God of War 2 at 3x resolution will run at 60 FPS. Pretty great PS2 emulation performance here with Nether SX2. Very surprised that I didn't even have to swap over. And I mean, you could always test it with Vulkan versus OpenGL. And usually with these MediaTek devices, given that we've got a Mali GPU, Vulkan works much better than OpenGL in a lot of stuff. But we've got a pretty powerful system here, so OpenGL can push through it also. Checking out some GameCube and Wii emulation using the official Dolphin emulator. 720p here with The Simpsons Road Rage, and I always like testing this on Android because it's one of those games that does give these ARM chips a run for its money. I know it's not a super hard game to emulate, but there are some areas within this game where it really slows down, but this kind of just trucked right through it. I did swap over to the Vulkan back in, and I also went through and I tested F-Zero GX, 720p on that Fire Field track. It runs at 60 FPS. Moving over to some Wii, Sonic Colors. This game natively ran at 30 FPS, working great here. When it comes to PS2, GameCube, and Wii on this, if the game is compatible with the Android version of the Dolphin emulator, you're going to be able to emulate it on this device. Now, there may be a few that kind of fall below that 60 FPS mark in certain areas, but this chip is putting down much better performance than I thought it would. Now, with everything going on in the emulation space, it's really hard for me to show off gameplay for some other stuff. When it comes to WiiU, not too bad, but there are some games where it kind of did fall way below what I was hoping it would run at. Bayonetta 2 was at 50 FPS, usually runs at 60. You can see that Spider-Man 2 was 35, so we're well under that 60 mark with it. But there are a lot of the Wii U games that will run pretty decently on this system. So far, really impressed with the performance I've been seeing out of the RG557, and I will have a full review in the next 4 days or so. I definitely want to spend more time with this. I need to get an idea of battery life. I've got a lot more that I want to test with this device. Ergonomics feel pretty decent here. I love the palm rest we've got. I'm not too keen on the overall look of the device with those humps on the bottom, but they do serve a purpose. I love the D-pad, the buttons feel good, analog sticks work great. That 5.5-inch AMOLED display at 1080 looks awesome. Now I know some people would love a 120 Hz display in something like this, but for me, I just don't think it makes sense given that it's powered by Android, and we're really going to be running a lot of retro emulation on this device. But that's going to wrap it up for my first look video at the RG557. If there's anything else you want to see in the final review, just let me know in the comments below. And if you're interested in learning a little more about this new handheld from Anbernic, I'll leave links in the description. But that's it for this one. Like always, thanks for watching.